So good morning, all of you. Here we are starting with the webinar on the treatments of wastewater and its advancement. Basically, we are looking for going to look after the wastewater treatment and its advancement in detail. But before we start, I will give you a brief explanation and brief introduction, we can say, to the speaker. The speaker is Mr. Urv Patel. Currently, is having his own consultancy of named as SWA Environment Consultants and Engineers, where he is currently working as a founder and CEO of the unit. He has done bachelor's in environment engineering from Government Engineering College Surat and has completed master's from University of Washington, Seattle in environment engineering. So he's going to give us a brief explanation regarding how the wastewater treatment is going to work in the field of designing aspect and its advancement in industrial field. Purv, you can continue. I'm
Yes.
just sharing the screen.
Yes, please share the PPT.
Is it visible?
Yes, now it is visible. Yes.
Okay. So
Okay.
I have given
Shall I
the brief
begin?
introduction.
Okay.
You can
Thank
continue.
you. Thank you for the introduction, Chintan. I hope the audience is a little bit familiar about the fundamentals of wastewater and its design. And I think most of them are civil engineering and environmental engineering students. Am I correct?
They also include a chemical engineering student as well.
Okay, great. Not an issue. So I will try to make it as basic as possible, and we'll touch upon more on the practical side of the aspects there rather than theoretical side. So it will be more application oriented for the students, right?
Yeah,
So,
yes.
yeah. Can you change the slide, please? Next slide.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. So this is a typical layout of a sewage treatment plant, or maybe we can say wastewater treatment, domestic wastewater treatment plant. Typically, in this presentation, we will look more towards the biological and the tertiary treatment of the treatment aspect. When we say wastewater treatment, it also includes industrial wastewater. But for this presentation's sake, we will focus more on the domestic sewage treatment, and which includes the unit processes like biological treatment and tertiary treatment, right? So when we see a typical wastewater sewage treatment plant, the core of the plant is basically the aeration, the biological treatment, which reduces the COD on the BOD, or the organic pollutant we all know, I hope, and that is based on the Michaelis-Menten enzyme substrate reaction, and it's basically a chemical reaction which uses COD, or the organic matter, as its substrate, as its reactants, and the products will be the energy and carbon dioxide and H2O, right? The COD, which is converted into more biomass, is then separated in the form of sludge, and that sludge is dewatered, and then it is disposed of to a landfill or a respective on agriculture use or things like that. Other than that, we have gravity settling, and in primary treatment we have coagulation and flocculation, gravity settling, concepts like say discrete settling velocity and that all. So I won't be touching that in more detail, but I will more focus on the biological side. So let's start on the fundamental. Can you next slide, please? Yes. So in wastewater treatment, we see biological processes majorly divided into aerobic and anaerobic. Which in aerobic we see a modified activated sludge process, and all the treatment processes or the modifications in the activated sludge processes we use today, say it sequencing batch reactors or extended aeration or anoxic aerobic denitrification, nitrification processes, Barden four stage, 5 stage, modified Lutze-Kettinger. All these have their fundamentally they are all the same, which is in activated sludge process. Next, we look upon anaerobic processes, which is basically a reduction process rather than oxidation process. The COD is reduced in anaerobic processes and converted into methane and carbon dioxide. And major type of reactors we use are upflow anaerobic sludge blanket and biodigesters. UASB are relatively recent, not so recent, but in maybe in around 1972, the first USB reactor was developed by TU Delft from the inventor Lettinga and his students. They developed it for agricultural and agro wastewater. USB has advantages of a very low retention time compared to a typical biodigester. So we will touch in more detail later. We move to physicochemical processes now. In physicochemical process, we typically see settling, coagulation, flocculation, sand filtration, ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, ion exchange, and others. Now, coagulation, flocculation, and sand filtration, we might rather see they are very basic treatment processes, but there is far more to it than it meets the eye. So we will, in fact, touch a little bit upon coagulation, flocculation, and ultrafiltration, and we will see that how water chemistry plays a very important role in defining which treatment process to use and how to operate and what are the problems water chemistry, pH, hardness, ions have on these processes, physicochemical processes. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a typical schematic of a biological treatment process, which is activated sludge process. Aeration tank we have and secondary clarifier which separates the sludge in the form of biomass, and that is dewatered and disposed. Part of that is recycled to the aeration tank. Typically, this is a continuous process, but in batch processes, the same things happen in batch in only one reactor. Nowadays, which is in trend, which is as sequencing batch reactor. Next slide, please. These are other modifications in a conventional activated sludge process, MLE, Burden 4, A2O, and sequencing batch reactors. These are very important nowadays because the norms of ammonical nitrogen and total phosphorus have been made more stringent by National Green Tribunal. And we now require less than 10 milligram of total nitrogen and less than 2 milligram of total phosphorus. In that case, we require anoxic and aerobic zone for biological nitrogen and biological phosphorus removal, which can also be known as biological nutrient removal, BNR BNR processes, we can say. Next slide, please. Yeah, can we shift back to this previous slide? I just need to add a point. Yes, so for specifically environmental engineers would like to and also chemical engineers, I would like to stress on the point that whenever you go in industry and see a plant where you require denitrification and you only have a extended aeration process, I would urge you to use an anoxic selector zone in before an aerobic zone. Why? Because basically the nitrified liquor which you recycle into the anoxic zone, it adds to your oxygen credit. So in anoxic zone, what happens is that the nitrate and the nitrite which has been nitrified in the aerobic zone, the bacteria in the anoxic zone uses it as electron donor instead of oxygen. So our oxygen requirement reduces greatly. and because of that our blower capacity and lower energy power consumption also reduces up to the tune of 20 to 25 percentage. So I and also the sludge settling characteristics also improves when it goes to secondary clarifier, because what happens many a times is that in the industry the biological sludge, if it is not maintained properly, you will see filamentous and filamentous bulking and bulking stress problems like nocodia form and script and other problems like granular sludge when you have a very long SRT, and in reverse of the filamentous sludge when you have a very short SRT. So in order to circumvent these problems, I advise a anoxic or a anaerobic selector zone before aerobic zone, so that you can take two benefit. The sludge settling properties is also good, and you can have oxygen credit on your side, so your power consumption also reduces to up to the tune of 20-25. Next slide please. Yes, this is basically Michaelis-Menten kinetics reaction. Most of the chemical engineering and environmental engineering students might recognize this equation. Basically, it is the rate of reaction equation with K is a constant, X and S as the reactants. X is the biomass and S is the substrate. So we typically, when we see a graph like this, when we look at a continuous process, the rate of reaction is constant in that case because it is a steady state process, and it is governed by the substrate concentration at the outlet, which is our target concentration. Say for example, we want to go from 1000 to 100 COD. The concentration, the rate of reaction will work on the basis of the 100 COD, because it is a steady state process and the S value in this equation will be 100. But when we see in the batch reactor or the plug flow reactor, we see in chemical engineering, students might recognize more of this terminology, that in batch reactor the concentration gradually reduces of the reactants. So in that case, the rate of reaction is gradually reducing from very high to the lowest, to the target concentration. So the average rate, if we recognize in this process, is much higher than the continuous CSTR type process, which is the continuous ASP processes. So I would so that is the reason nowadays batch processes in sewage treatment plant have been in trend. Next slide, please. So typically, when you see a microscope in the biomass, the floc in a microscope, it is basically formed of three parts: the bacteria itself, the EPS, which is the extracellular polymers, polysaccharides, and the filaments. All these three elements are very important in formation of a floc. When we say floc is not just the bacteria; it is everything, all the three parts. Filamentous are very important. When we say filamentous, it acts as a sweeping agent. It acts as a bridging agent between two flocs and it enhances the floc formation. But when we have a very low SRT, which is very slow sludge retention time, the filamentous bacteria can increase to very high extent, and that can be very problematic in operations, because if we have very high filaments in the biomass floc, it will not settle properly and all the sludge will be carried forward to the next processes, and that will cause problem in the tertiary treatment. It can cause choking in the sand filtration and things like that, and it can violate our permissible limit for COD and TSS and that all. Next slide, please. So these are typical flora of the activated sludge process. I won't be going into much detail about regarding this, but all of these organisms, ciliates, flagellates, and amoeba, and all the stalk ciliates we see are rotifers also. They are very important part of the ecosystem. Just like in a jungle, we need a lion and a deer. In the same way in the activated sludge floc, we need all kinds of flora to maintain the floc in good condition, in good health, so that we can get good settling as well as good COD reduction. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is typically the same operational issue I wanted to discuss regarding the biological side of the treatment process. When you have a very low F by m, that is food to microorganism ratio, and when you have a very high to my food to microorganism ratio, the organisms which are which are dominant in that region will be more distinctly seen under a micrograph. So we can decide, the operator can decide based on that which what to do, more sludge to be withdrawn, more sludge to be wasted, or maybe more nutrients to be added, maybe DO concentration is not good, maybe the sewage, the incoming sewage does not have proper organic matter in it, which is very low strength organic wastewater. So we can judge from this graph. We can judge from the presence of bacteria in under the microscope. We can see that we can then take a decision on what to do. Next slide, please. So this is the same micrograph of in 1000x. It is from our own. One of the slide is from our own laboratory. The two slides are being downloaded from Google just for illustration. That how stalk ciliate looks like under the microscope, and how can you identify the photo. The micrograph in the middle is very high filamentous bacteria, which is due to very high food to microorganisms ratio. So that sludge will have a very big problem in settling. So those are the considerations I expect that all the future engineers would, future environmental and chemical and civil engineers, when operating a plant, will take into consideration. Next slide, please. Yeah, CP, this is the same thing. It is an operational aspect of the same activated sludge process. The sludge volume index, you can decide if your sludge is good or bad. It is basically the textbook illustration, and we won't be discussing too deep inside this process, and we can refer Metcalfe and Eddy or similar process and decide if our sludge is good settling or bad settling. In a good property, the settling properties are good or bad. Next slide, please. So troubleshooting aspect, I will look on the biological side. When as I said, if you have a very low SVI, sludge volume index, as I said, and very high pin floc, which is very granular floc, it will result into your effluent being very turbid and no COD removal, BOD removal. If you will measure TSS, VSS, you will have typical 3000, 2500 TSS, VSS, but you won't get reduction. So what is the reason, what is the scenario, what is the remedies we can do is we can waste sludge, but optimally as per this equation, and increase organic load. So that way we can increase the food to microorganisms ratio, and maybe we can another strategy could be shock the aeration with a slug load of jaggery or methanol, which is the cheapest. So hydraulic load, in this case, we have to stop it for not less than 10 to 12 hours, and we will see revival of the process in very short time, maybe around 2 or 3 days. We will see revival of the whole plant. Next slide, please. Yes, the reverse of the process, which is very high filamentous growth and high sludge volume index, cause will be very high SRT and no optimal to cause granulation, not optional to cause granulation, optimal to cause granulation. Granulation we require in sludge sewage treatment plant, in biological treatment plant, so that we can settle the sludge very properly, and we can have solid liquid separation in clarifiers or SBR easily, so that our TSS and COD target are achieved, and reliability of the process is also maintained. So the remedies could be starve out the filaments, reduce organic load. Now another case can be, we can shut the blower for maybe around 8 hours. We can take the DO we can shock the aeration tank by taking the DO to 0 or less than less than 0.5 or less than 1. So in that case, the filamentous bacteria will be thrown out of the system, and they can be flushed out of the system. We can repeat this process like in a swing strategy, and we can enhance the granulation by this. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in USB or anaerobic process, which is also a biochemical reaction process, in that it is a very complex process when we look that if we input any waste or anything, any food material or any waste material, organic material, it is broken down basically into three parts: carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, which are then subsequently broken into their respective byproducts or products by hydrolysis, fermentation, and acetogenesis process. And lastly, when VFAs and acetic acid are made, the major methane is converted from acetic acid, which is in the methanogenesis processes, and this is the basic process flow of the anaerobic process by which COD is converted into methane. Problems in this are also severe and very complex, both biologically on the chemistry side. So operating a wastewater biological treatment plant is not just biology; it is also chemistry as well as fluid mechanics. And we need a multidisciplinary approach in solving practical problems with related to biological processes or physico-chemical processes. We will see in the next coming slide how we can use aquatic water chemistry in this. Next slide, please. So this is the granular sludge. So in typical anaerobic process, you can't see a granulation. These are the small balls. You can see they are the granules of bacteria. The bacteria has actually converted itself into small granules, and it increases the biomass concentration in the blanket, the sludge blanket, which is at the bottom, and we can have a very low hydraulic retention time. It reduces the reactor size and also reduces the capital cost. Next slide, please. So understanding the biochemistry, when we look at, as I said, if we have very high loading in the digester or USB, we will have accumulation of volatile fatty acids. Volatile fatty acids are acetic acid, propionate, butyrate, and all the other VFAs formed in the process. Majorly, it is acetic acid, propionic acid, and butyric acid. Accumulation of that happens when when we dump a lot of organic load into the digester, not considering its capacity. What happens is that methanogenesis process is much slower process, and acetogenesis process is much higher. It has a very higher rate constant, rate of reaction. It will convert all the organic waste into VFA, but the methanogens will not be able to cope up with the demand, and it will start accumulating VFAs. Increasing VFA will also increase in ammonia because the protein synthesis will also contribute to ammonia accumulation, and ammonia will also not be broken down by the methanogens. That will result into ammonia toxicity with the methanogens, because methanogens are toxic to ammonia more than 200. I have seen more than 2,000 milligram per liter of concentration. Even then, digesters run properly, but typically literature thing is 200 to 500. We can say the ideal range for ammonia. And in that case also, ammonia, the unionized ammonia is much toxic than ionized ammonia. What happens is that sometimes if the VFAs start accumulating, pH is going down, and ammonia, as chemistry student will recognize that ammonia in water can be in two forms, which is unionized NH3 and NH4 plus. That is governed by the Ka, the association and dissociation coefficient, the Ka1 and the Ka2 if it is a diprotic acid or a monobiprotic base. So ammonia, if the pH is lower, it will most of the ammonia speciation will be formed in the form of unionized ammonia. In the form, if the pH is higher, it will be in the form of unionized ammonia. Sorry, so that will cause the problem will be exacerbated. And when the methanogens are lower, the pH will be also reduced, and then it will produce a cycle of it will produce a cycle which will harm the digester, and it will not run properly. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. So I will not touch on the in detail. As I said, ammonia chemistry is very important in digester also. The speciation will be based on the standard association dissociation coefficient of ammonia, and that will have a very profounding effect on the functioning and the functioning and the processes of the digester. Next slide, please. The troubleshooting in digester can be we can reduce increase in acetic acid, reduce the organic load, increase the alkalinity, as we can reduce the pH. We can increase the pH by adding more alkalinity. So we can manage on that front. Next slide, please. Increase in pH once it enters aeration. Sometimes what happens that bicarbonate alkalinity is increased due to ammonia levels in the anaerobic process. Anaerobic process, what happens is that when sometimes in industry, if you see dairy industry, wastewater from anaerobic digester goes to aerobic digester. In sometimes even bicarbonate alkalinity is very high. As soon as it falls in the aeration tank, the pH goes beyond 9 without any chemical dosing. What happens here is, as we all know, if we take carbon dioxide into the water, dissolve carbon dioxide into the water, the pH will reduce, and if we desorb the carbon dioxide from the water, the pH will increase. That's what happens. All the bicarbonates are released in the form of CO2, so the pH will go high. So in reduce, we can say urea dosing in USB can be reduced, installing a gasifier or a stripper after a digester, and we can manage on that front. Next slide, please. Optimal gas production, just like that, micronutrients are also important. Nickel, molybdenum, cobalt, and zinc for the cell processes. We can consider dosing them in microgram quantities as per literature. Next slide, please. So this is coagulation, flocculation, and settling. This Amrit Raj curve, in which we can see that pH has a very important role in ideal optimal coagulation and flocculation. So this presentation is a little short for discussing this in detail, but in a nutshell, I would say pH is very important when you add any coagulant, but you need to manage the pH, because typically when you add PAC, your pH is reduced, and to manage that, you are adding any lime or caustic, whatever you add for the neutralization. You are not adding lime or caustic for flocculation coagulation. You are just adding it as a neutralizing agent to the coagulant added. Maybe it alum or maybe it PAC, ferrous sulfate, whatever you use, whatever process you use, right? Next slide, please. Yeah, in physicochemical process, treatment process, coagulation, the suboptimal pH, as I mentioned, you can manage as per discussion previously. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a very interesting case study which we solved maybe around 1.5 years ago. You used to have a scaling in ultrafiltration plant in a textile plant. So when you say ultrafiltration, you can never have a scaling. You can have scaling, the calcium scaling or heavy this hardness scaling on RO plants, because RO membranes have a much lower pore size, and the feed pressure is also much higher. So the sparingly solubility of the salt on the surface of the membrane reduces, and as we see, the concentration increases and the solubility reduces. So the solution is precipitated out of the solution and it deposits on the membrane of the process. But in UF you can't say that, because UF has a very low feed pressure, let's say around 1 kg, 1 to 3 kg. We don't have more than that. But in RO we have 7 or 8 kg or maybe around 12 kg in some cases. So we solved this problem by looking deep into the process side. Looking deep into the process side. Yes. Yeah. So we went to the factory, what they are using in the processes. So we found that during cotton dyeing process, they used to have using this Glauber salt, which is sodium sulfate, and also the hardness, which is calcium chloride, was also added. Because of that, hardness was increasing. So calcium chloride and sodium sulfate, when the wastewater is rejected from after the dyeing, it forms into calcium sulfate. So calcium sulfate, we all know, is a precursor to this gypsum. Gypsum is a mineral which is calcium sulfate hemihydrate. And when the wastewater, after treating from ETP, the COD was very low. COD in the UF feed was around less than 50 milligram or 100, which is okay for industrial ZLD process. But UF was scaling because of this deposition of calcium sulfate on the membrane of the ultrafiltration. So water chemistry, why is it important? We can see that in UF, where we were never in 1 in 1,000 cases we can have UF scaling. We have scaling due to water chemistry, and we need to solve that after looking into all the constituent metal and non-metallic positive and negative ions in the water. So what we did to solve this, next slide please. Yeah, so what we did to solve this was we need to remove any one from the calcium and sulfate. Maybe calcium, maybe sulfate. They already had old softening plant, which is, we all know, used to remove calcium and magnesium ions. So we put that before UF and we removed all the calcium ions. So for sulfate, it didn't had any common ion to bond with and precipitate on UF membrane, and that is how we solved the problem. By this example, we can see that water chemistry is also important when we consider mechanical separation processes like ultrafiltration, where no chemical are actually involved in the process. So this is a very interesting case study which we did. Next slide, please. Yeah, scaling, that's what we discussed in previous slides. Next slide. Yes, so by calculation, the calculation we did was on the basis of this slide. We calculated we measured the calcium and sulfate ions in the process, and then we calculated that how is it going into higher concentration when it goes into membrane. It is the simple ionic product equation. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the equation we all use. We might recognize in 11 standard chemistry. We used to solve how is if the solution will precipitate or not. So ionic product is basically nothing but the product of the moles of each ion product in any solution. The ionic product of calcium sulfate calculated and measured from the measured data was 10 into 10 raised to minus 5 moles per liter, and the solubility product of gypsum is 2.45 into 10 raised to minus 5. So ionic product, by principle, we know ionic product more than solubility product. We see that a precipitate will precipitate out of the solution. So from the drawing board, we concluded that this is the only reason for the scaling, and then we practically demonstrated by putting a softening plant before UF plant and solving the problem. Next calculation. This is again oversimplified calculation. Of course, you can use softwares like Visual Mintech and equilibrium coefficient and whatnot you can do. But for this presentation sake and understanding sake, this is the most back of the envelope calculation. You can just do it on one paper, and this doesn't require much of work for on your side. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is Visual Mintech. It is very good equilibrium water chemistry tool and very handy tool. Free or can be downloaded. Please share my PPT so that they can download that from online and they can use it for anything they require. We can have a session for this also. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is basically the same thing which I calculated by hand. We can also do it in software. This is a screenshot of the Visual Mintech. Next slide, please. Yes, so in Visual Mintech also it doesn't precipitate, but in Visual Mintech some inputs were not given. So next slide, please. So Visual Mintech, why doesn't precipitate? Because theoretically it won't have concentration lower than the ionic product won't get higher than solubility product in bulk solution. What happens is that in a very thin layer near the membrane, all the ions get concentrated as shown in the red circle which is marked here. So in only locally the concentration of this calcium and sulfate increases up to beyond undesirable amount, and the scaling happens at the surface, not in the bulk solution. It doesn't come out as like a powder or anything like that. It is a very local phenomenon, happens only on the membrane surface. Next slide, please. This is again recent advances. I would say, I think in last 110 years of actuator sludge process, the single breakthrough I would say is granular aerobic process. So granular aerobic process, you can see the sludge are in the form of granules, and you don't have a very high flock problem, bulking sludge or filamentous sludge problem. And I think it is developed by TU Delft and process is now called Nereda process. First project is going in Namami Gange, and Viatech Wabag is having the license for India for the same process right now. So this is something you might be interested to look up on the internet, and you can find videos regarding that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the benefits. 75% a smaller footprint than conventional SBR. 20 to 35% energy saving also compared to SBR. So all in all, nutrient reduction also is much higher compared to any existing processes. So in space constraint, in otherwise every aspect, it is much better process. Right. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. I will open the forum to any questions if there are any.
So basically we are not having direct session with the presenter and with the students. So
okay.
I will check on the FB if they are having any questions.
Yeah, if there are questions, we can address them here, or if you can write me later, and I can maybe write on them, and then we can share it with them maybe.
Yeah, sure. That can be possible. But right now, as I can see, on the FB, they have not written any questions. But in if they have written to me, I will convey the questions to you. And
sure.
You can share it with me.
Sure. Thank you. All right, sure.
Okay. Thank you for your presence and giving the total depth knowledge of the biotic reactors and biological processes.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank
So
you.
we are stopping it over here. Thank you
Sure,
for
sure,
giving
sure.
this present
Thank
value
you.
in detail.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. We are just stopping it over here. Hello. Hello.